All right, I will call to order the Fishers Plan Unit Development Committee, Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. Kay, would you like to take roll, please?
Ms. Baumgartner.
Here.
Ms. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Curran. Here. Mr. Peterson. Here. And Mr. Stevenson is not with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our first item up today is PUD-22-3 Abbott Commons. We have Bree King to present.
Hello, I'm Bree King from Planning and Zoning. Do a quick overview of this project. So our petitioner is Mark Leach and Tony Bagato on behalf of Boomerang Investments. So we are looking for the approval of architectural elevations and site design for Abbott Commons, a 345-lot residential subdivision. Final approval of the PUD is subject to City Council adoption of this PUD, and that's currently underway. So right now it is zoned R2, but the rezone process is ongoing to be rezoned to PUD Abbott Commons. Here you can see the location. It is in the Northeast Fishers in between 136th and 69. Here, once again, is the location highlighted in purple. You can see that there is the church and then the property to the east that is not to be included. And then below, you can see the concept plan for this area. That includes the 3 sections that we'll hit on in just a moment. So up front near the 136, you can see is the Heritage Collection. These will be rear-loaded homes. Closer to 69, you'll see the Venture Collection, which offers 2 different sizes of lots. These will be typical front-loaded. And then we have the townhomes. All landscaping will be native species, and the species will be varied to provide greater resiliency from disease or pests, and walking paths are provided throughout the community. We're going to start with the Heritage Collection, which is that collection closest to 136th, and that includes 5 models with 15 total elevations, and staff does not have any concerns with these models. The Heritage Collection will utilize private alleys, and we have worked with the developer to make sure that architecture along 136th Street was elevated so it'll provide a good streetscape. Here are 2 more of the 2-story options for the Heritage Collection. As you can see, there is brick, there's architectural details such as the corbels, and then that garage will be in the rear. Next, we're going to move on over to the Venture Collection, which is the collection that was closest to the highway. There are 11 total elevations, and in discussions with the petitioner, he has agreed to make all the garage doors decorative, so that won't be in these photos, but that will be provided in the PUD. So staff does have a few comments about a few of these elevations that we'll be presenting to the board today. Here you can see 3 elevations that staff did not have comments on. We appreciated the amount of modulation and the architectural details. These are 2 elevations that we do have comments on. They're Aspen B and C, and we found them worth discussing. We feel like these are the lowest elevations in this Venture Collection. We thought that there was a lack of modulation on that second floor that really sets some of the other elevations apart. So we have suggested that there be added modulation potentially on the second floor, or an additional architectural feature such as corbels or shutters. So for example, if both had brick and corbels, it would look much higher architecture than what these look like now. So the petitioner has stated that they will likely remove these elevations or come back at a later time to discuss. Here you can see a photo of what the Aspen looks like in the real world. And then here's another example of what that Aspen looks like in a real world setting with a extension on that garage. This shows two elevations side by side. So the one on the left, Broadmoor B, is an elevation that staff had no problems with. The Broadmoor features shakes and second floor modulation, as well as a gable on the porch. So I've highlighted those in the boxes here, the features that we think make that Broadmoor B a higher level of architecture than the Aspen. The other elevation that we would like to bring in front of PUD committee to discuss is Valencia A. On the top, you have a photo of the elevation, and then on the bottom is a real world example. So we have the same comments that we had with Aspen for this Valencia A. We feel like one additional modulation or architectural feature would really improve the look of the elevation. We'll next move on to the last section, which was those townhomes in the northwest corner there. You can see the photos that show the elevations that are currently being built elsewhere. What staff appreciates is the colored garage doors that are also decorative, and that you can tell the end units very distinctly from the units beside it. Staff still has some concerns about the interior units being similar in colors. We'll let the petitioner speak on that. Staff does look for townhomes to be clearly distinct between the units. So the black circles on this map show where brick wrap will be provided when visible from intersections of the trail. The red line is the trail being provided throughout the development. The UDO requires enhanced architecture on structures visible from the public view, like a trail. If the committee feels it's necessary, the homes could be extended beyond what's been identified thus far. So if you feel more homes that are visible from that trail, public view, need those advanced architecture features, that's something you all could discuss. Staff has requested that the brick wrap be extended to more elevations, but we understand that is a considerable request and maybe a cost constraint as well. We have received a public comment about this PUD committee value. So basically the public comment was that the PUD hasn't been approved yet. So we just want to make it clear that the rezone must be adopted by City Council in order to construct the development. The PUD committee will not be approving the ordinance itself tonight, but the committee can approve the elevations, which is of course contingent upon final approval of the ordinance. So staff's recommendation is we do recommend approval with the conditions below. So for Aspen B and C, we would like to see the decorative garage doors, which the petitioner has provided. Modulation on the second floor, an additional architectural feature. Valencia A, we have the same comments as above. And then also consideration of enhanced architecture from public view, such as the brick wainscot.
Thank you. Does the petitioner want to speak?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Steve Harden. I'm a partner in the law firm of Fagery Drinker. I'm pleased to be here this evening representing Boomerang Development and Lennar Homes. From Boomerang, Mr. Corby Thompson is here. From Lennar, Keith Lash and Tony Bagato. And Tony's going to get to come up and talk about the architecture. Thank you, Bree, for your summary. It was perfect. Kind of clues us in so we're not taking the whole hour to go through all the plans, just the ones we've been talking with. And I know Tony, come on up. Tony has been working diligently with the staff to work through lots of issues. The one thing hopefully you saw as we were looking at the aerial that this is backing right up to the interstate. So there's some challenges working through appropriate level of design and architecture as well as being able to fit in with the community. So Tony's going to walk through his thoughts and then we'll listen to what your guys' guidance is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Tony Bagato with Lennar Homes of Indiana. Yeah, pretty much we've been working with staff for months. I think back in September we've been discussing this project and all the architecture. So I will say, you know, tonight the PUD process, the architecture sometimes feels a little bit early in the game, but you know, so we're willing to work with staff, you know, after tonight. If there's plans that want to be held off, we're okay with that. We just want to make sure we get through the rezoning process first, introduce what you see tonight, but eventually spend time with staff. But I did want to go through a little bit and discuss some of the plans that were still shown because we want to show, you know, variety within our community. So the Valencia A is another real world. I didn't use this when I worked here. How do you zoom out? I always had PowerPoints. Yeah. So when the UDO was written, first off, trying to write architectural standards for variation and how to implement that in the code is very challenging. As we knew with the old PUDs that had a lot of point systems, they can be interpreted very different by a different building and a builder, and you didn't get what you anticipated. So one of the points when we redid the UDO is we still kept the PUD committee process because it was to show the PUD committee homes that may or may not meet the UDO, with the intent, though, if the PUD committee still thought it met, the merit of the location and the overall development of the community, that it could still be approved. So I just wanted to highlight that. And so in the UDO, when it was written, it was tried to use different things to pick up articulation, color change, material change, and massing change. It wasn't all about, again, following it to the letter of the T, unless, you're going to go into the UDO and do a straight zone, because we had no other control otherwise. So again, anything that's presented to the PUD, we're trying to show that we think it meets the intent of the community we're trying to bring forward. So you can see in this one, Valencia A, and these ones have the decorative garage doors plus the overhangs, which you don't see in those renderings. And so I think the renderings don't look as good as they do in real life compared to even the photo. But you can see we provide color change. There's even some material change when you have the color change that helps to distinguish the elevation across the top, even though it's in the same plane. It has a roof break above the garage and the entryway. So we still feel that the way it is, it's sufficient. But again, if staff or the PUD committee wants us to remove this for now, we're willing to work on that in the future. The other one I wanted to cover is Aspen C. So again, it may not have the modulation at the top, but with the coloring and the vertical break in the elements, we believe, and with a nice thick trim, we believe that this does still kind of meet the overall intent of what we're trying to achieve with these homes. And again, we're willing to look at other material if needed, but we do want to show these tonight still. And then the last one I will cover is the townhomes, and we have worked significantly about getting color changes and variation in there. So we are willing to do that. I would highlight that I mentioned to Megan yesterday, the building that's in the rendering is a 4-unit building, and there's only several of those. I think there's 4 4-unit buildings. We have other buildings that are 6 units. So in our other built examples, we do have color changes in between. So you can see on the end, we try to make the end units, when there's a 4-unit building, a little bit darker because you want to bookend that building. So we will work, again, if color is still a concern, we'll continue to work on that once we get the zoning approved. But the key for us is we feel that this design brings a lot of articulation, even though they're front-loaded. What the market is finding that with the front-loaded townhome is it provides a rear yard that you don't get with an alley-loaded townhome. So this provides someone with a backyard to use a usable area, just almost like a single family, kind of becoming the new entry level for single family. But we have done, I think, a great job architecturally in providing articulation, massing that provides good shadowing, and then even color changes. So you can see the end unit, it's got some brown and gray, and then it gets into more of like an off-white in the middle. And then the third unit in the middle is darker gray than the middle one. So we do work to try to provide that variation. That's really all I have, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Tony. Committee? Megan?
I think the 3 elevations that we talked about, or 2 elevations, especially that one I think is a little bit misleading since it has that bump out and it provides some additional scale and like some changes than what it is even when it's just that basic box. So I would still, when I support this project, it'll be with the motion that some sort of additional architectural feature is added or that it gets removed as is. And then the same with the previous version, that live or real life photo, same on that one. And I would, same exact thing of additional feature, and even like with the corbels up top, I'm not sure that one quite meets it. So I would look to everybody else to see if you suggest removing that elevation completely. And then I think being able to have a very clear distinction in the colors. I think the real life photo that you had shown, Tony, of alternating colors of a dark and light and dark and light, regardless of how many units are in there, I would recommend that we have that very distinct contrast on the rest of it. But I love all of the, especially those rear-loaded units, I think, or homes. I think that those are great. So those are my comments.
Yeah. And I will note that that pop-out is an option, so when we have a home site that has enough room with the setbacks, that is definitely something that's added or can be added to if the home buyer is interested.
I'm gonna add to that there. I think maybe if we do utilize that, or elevation, that maybe that should be a requirement to utilize that elevation. And I know that's not gonna work on every lot, but, I've also, I feel like from my experience driving through neighborhoods that have these specific elevations, they do tend to look fairly boxy. So I think adding one little piece of like that, it makes a huge difference. And I would agree that I think to keep the integrity of what we're trying to do with all new developments in the city of Fishers, I think that should be a requirement.
Not really anything to add, I think, beyond what you both have said. I think, yeah, the rear load, I think those look great. I'm assuming those are all attached garage, or are there options for details?
Yeah, correct. They're attached, and actually I have a kind of a streetscape if you're interested. But yeah, and that was the overall intent. Initially, we were providing all the venture homes in the whole community, and they were backing up to 136th Street. And given, the discussions with the staff and wanting to present a better streetscape from 136th Street, that was definitely a key focal area. Mm-hmm. So we put the pond in the front and then move these to what you would see from 136 with the landscaping in there, obviously. But yeah, all rear loaded, attached garages, decorative doors on the back of those as well. And yeah, so that'll provide a nice streetscape.
Yeah, I really like that. I do agree on the other, the Aspen and the Valencia. I think that there's just compared to the other ones that are presented, those are kind of the outliers, I guess is the only way I could say it, in terms of kind of the look or what I would think.
Well, I guess my only comment, quite frankly, is you look at a singular picture of a house, and it looks kind of just sitting there alone, which they don't sit there alone, right? So you have houses on either end, typically unless you're on a corner. Like if you look at the streetscape here, you start to see that it's not monotonous, right? You don't get that monotony that goes through. I mean, if I look at it singularly, could you add a couple shutters? Sure, why not? I mean, I'm not overly jumping up and down about either way. Could it be a front bay window up in the front? Sure, a front bay window would be awesome, but they cost a lot of money, and these things are already costing a bit of money. So overall, I think the product mix, as long as we're following that anti-monotonous clause type of deal, we should be fine with what we've been shown with the staff suggestions, and just try to work on a couple of the things to edge them up a bit.
So tonight, we would, we've talked to staff before the meeting, we would rather pull those 3 plans and then just come back, once the zoning is approved, come back and work with staff, work through those details. And those other plans that were moved, we'd like to come back and still try to show them, real-life photos, maybe introduce more material where possible and try to accommodate that as well. So we just asked for approval without those. And the townhomes were, to me, it's just color. We're continuing to work on that. The key is you want, I saw an example in the PUD staff report, and to me, I think that gets a little bit out of character with what we wanted the building to look cohesive. And so there's a fine line to me between looking individual and then looking a little bit like Disneyland, right? We want to make sure it's all one building with 4 or 5 units, 6 units. We still want some cohesiveness with that individuality and the color scheme. But we'll color the garage doors and decorative doors and make that blend in real nice.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just had one quick comment on the ones that we're looking at that we're still kind of questioning. Can you bring one of those real-life pictures back? Just wanted to clarify something. So on that one, let's say, so you've got the same siding color on the first floor as you do on the second floor, but then there's additional color added. Is that a requirement for every home that is built with that elevation? that it's two different colors, you can never make it all the same color, or because I know sometimes, like, I mean,
Yeah,
from
the color
experience,
scheme.
I've been able to say, like, we put the permits out there and then we wanted it all to be the same color versus
Yeah.
that one area having a different color of siding. Is that in the PUD that it has to have a different color of siding currently?
Yeah. So as Keith said, this one will have usually two colors. The only option is there is like an option for an all-white home that gives like a nice clean look, but otherwise, it always has a variation in color there.
Okay, okay, I will, sorry, I just wanted to understand that a little bit. I think that the differentiation in color is important if we were to revisit these, but I prefer more articulation, but, I think we can entertain a motion. Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations.
Well, I just want to clear, the staff recommendation though is for modulation on these three, and we would rather pull those than commit to that.
Okay, the other thing we didn't talk about, I guess we do,
Tony, just want to make sure I understand the problem with doing articulation is cost, right?
Well, it's costs, and honestly, it even gets into what the other one changes we're willing to do is that you get a little bit of a consumer issue because a homeowner that buys this home, say in Westfield, maybe visits someone here, sees it's a little bit different, and they could get upset, right? You go, I mean, it's. Yeah, but it. Yeah.
municipalities it is gonna have their differences, and I
Yeah.
feel like, you know, I think that's something that is not on us to figure out, that's within.
Yeah,
you know.
but yeah, the construction methods and cost goes up, and we have, the other plan she showed already has, at least on the Aspen, has that modulation, so we don't want to make that one modulate necessarily, because it's going to look more like that one, so we want that variation too. And so it's a little bit of, it's not,
Let me ask staff then, so hearing that staff and our recommendations for a little more modulation, is there any other items that we think would satisfy staff at this point?
Yeah, so if modulation is not a solution, then we can entertain other architectural features that will enhance that facade. And so,
Such as shutters or?
yeah, so it'll depend on the elevation on, I mean, really what looks good. But yeah, I mean, adding corbels or maybe something to the front porch, additional shutters, different materials. There's different options. Yeah, we can work with Lennar on what those look like and then bring back these elevations with some other elevations that they have before you guys.
Okay, so Tony, I guess what you're saying is knowing that now too, because you're not willing to take that modulation out, we still need to work on what kind of additional stuff is. You're looking for us to make a decision tonight on the ones that staff has recommended for approval.
correct.
And leave the other ones off and we can come back on those.
Yeah, except for the townhomes, because we do agree the color's fairly simple to work with, so we would like, yeah,
Like you guys made a different color.
right.
I think you guys will figure that out.
Yeah, so these plans we would rather remove completely and come back after the zoning is in place and deal with,
Then I'll modify my motion, let's approve the PUD based on the staff recommended approval elevations.
For the 3 elevations that we discussed?
Elevations that staff has recommended approval on, and we'll table the others for another time. Does that work?
So I would say,
Table that.
We didn't talk, I don't think
We
we talked
didn't.
about the trail
The public
fronting.
fronting lots, we
The
didn't
wraps.
discuss that. Do we want to discuss that at all? I believe that, I agree with the way it was presented, that the ones that are public facing need to have the brick wrap or the
Yeah.
wainscot or whatever.
Yes.
But did we want to talk anything about that, or is everybody good with that? That was one thing, we got really elevation focused.
I don't think that we, I guess I don't think it's necessary to extend it beyond what has been presented.
Oh, great, okay.
I think if you do that, I get down a slope of the table, there's, technically there's trail goes along.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's necessary.
I think they can get into it, I think we get into it.
Okay, I agree with the current plan with the black dots as to which ones should require a little additional public facing.
yeah, there's definitely that option to
Yeah,
do that. And yeah,
right.
there's options on all, in these plans that allow that, so yeah, that,
Option for someone to do more brick height-wise, is this product all limited to that kind of thing?
it's all limited to this wainscot with this home type, yeah. We have other homes that are Milford, more of these state lots that have all brick or more brick option, but,
So my recommendation on a
so-
motion would be to approve as presented on the condition that the 3 elevations we discussed tonight are tabled until a later date.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion
Thank you.
approved. Megan, do you have anything else you'd like to discuss this evening, or are we good?
I have no staff communications.
All right. Meeting adjourned.